to be really safe. And I want to put things into perspective. So the people dying in traffic accidents, it's like a full Boeing 737 falling from the sky every hour of every day, which is 1 to 1.2 million people a year. If just a fraction of that would be happening with actual airplanes, none of you would go into airplanes. But we accepted it as something normal, because it just happens. People just die. And we don't feel like in airplanes because we are in control, or we think we are in control. To put numbers behind it, so the total cost of accidents in the US is $871 billion per year for 2014. That's 9% of the GDP of the US, which is 29 cents per mile, which is a bigger cost than gas or depreciation of the car. So the accidents cost actually more than it costs you to fuel up your car per mile. So the single largest component, according to some calculations, of cost per mile is actually accidents. Then, if we take into consideration the time wasted behind the wheel, so it's 50 billion hours in the US again, which is 8% of GDP. So if you put those two things together, the accidents and the time spent behind the wheel, it's a huge factor. So currently, normal cars are used only 4% of the time. So with autonomous shared cars, that can go up to 70% or more. So the cars will travel a lot more than they do today, maybe 250, 300,000 kilometers per year, instead of 20 to 30,000 kilometers per year today. One robotaxi can replace more than 20 cars. So 4 million robotaxis could replace half of the cars in the US, so more than 100 million. And there are some interesting facts, like, for example, 80% of the police is dedicated to traffic. What happens with the police when they are normal drivers? What happens with the airports? Because a significant share of their revenues comes from parking. What happens with the real estate market? Because distances are going to change completely. I'll have to accelerate a little bit, but the real question is what happens to the huge industry, the auto manufacturers and the tier 1 suppliers. So what I think is a key message here, it's not just about driving. It's not just about the transport. It's a huge change. It's maybe one of the biggest changes that humanity can do over the next couple of decades. In the productivity increase, as we know, we are in a capitalist society where we always have to have growth despite limited resources. This is one of the ways to maintain that growth, to give people the time they spend behind the wheels, to utilize the infrastructure better, and so on. Another, maybe more impactful change would that people eat less meat. But what I wanted to say here is really that it's not just about transport. This can be a huge change in our lives. I'll just skip a few things because I'm over the timing. People ask when it will happen. Nobody really knows. I think it could happen very fast. So this is a picture from 2005. And this is a picture just a few years later. So change does happen fast, especially considering if it's convenient and if it's cheap. And autonomous cars will be much more efficient. You will not have to do huge upfront investment buying a car. It will be very convenient, very fast, very efficient, and it could even be, like some companies predict, completely free. So let's see what the future will happen, how the industry will adapt, but the key message is autonomous cars will drive electrification, and those two things combined with a new mobility concept will completely change our landscape and have a huge impact on our lives. Thank you very much.